Good afternoon, everyone. I'm indeed delighted and honored to introduce our next eminent speaker for the day, Professor Dr. Vijay Anandi. Madam is currently working as Head of Department of Pharmaceutical Chemistry, Wales Institute of Science and Technology, Chennai. She has completed her UG from JKK Muniraja College of Pharmacy, Namakkal, and her PG from CL Bedmeta College of Pharmacy. She has also completed her PhD from Tamil Nadu Dr. MGR Medical University in the year 2002. Adding to her credit, ma'am has received many awards, including Best Teacher Award from the Tamil Nadu Dr. MGR Medical University in 2012 and Indra Vasudevan Award from Indian Association of Biomedical Scientists in 2016 and APJ Abdul Kalam Award from Marina Labs in 2017 and Outstanding Scientist Award from Australian Association of Pharmacy Professionals in the year 2018 and Best Scientist Award from Australian Association of Pharmacy Professionals in 2019. Adding further to her crown, she has received honorary doctorate from University of South America in the year 2018 for her excellence in the field of teaching. Ma'am has also published about 135 articles in both national and international journals. With this note, I would like to invite you to take over the session. Over to you, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for introduction. Thank you, ma'am, for this opportunity also. I'll just share my screen.
Yes, ma'am. You just check it out whether you are able to do it.
Yeah, she has been given 2 votes.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We can keep it in full screen mode, ma'am.
Yes, madam. I think you can see my screen, right, madam?
Yes, ma'am. Your screen is visible.
Your screen is visible, madam.
Okay, sir. Yes, I'll start, sir. And thank you for the opportunity, Dean Jitra, madam, and Vice Principal Damodaran, sir, and Sumitra, madam. I wholeheartedly thanks all the management of SRM for this great opportunity. And also I thank my management for this opportunity to share my views on this MBA accreditation and criteria 2 process. And before going to this lecture or talk, we should know what do you mean by accreditation and other sort of things. And we all know that yeah, can you hear me? Sorry, there is some signal drop. And
yes, ma'am, but we need a full screen, madam. Full screen.
Okay.
Madam, kindly share your slide in a slide mode, madam.
So now, sir?
Sir,
yeah, hello.
Madam, full screen mode lo vachittingna it would be okay.
Now it is in full screen.
No, madam. No, madam.
No. Madam, actually now it's full screen only, madam, actually.
Okay, madam, you just share, then we'll see, madam. Maybe the network will be an issue, I believe.
Okay, madam. Actually, it's showing full screen for me, madam.
No issues, ma'am. You just start.
I'm sorry for this, guys, and I don't know what is the problem. Okay, good afternoon, one and all, and welcome to this criteria 2 of SAR program curriculum and teaching learning process. Criteria 1 was about the vision, mission, and PEOs, and hope you would have gone through that. And the nature of the matrix of POs and this elements of mission statements and justification of the correlation is mentioned in the criteria 1. And I hope the outcome was that you would have learned the mission statements and this justification also. The outcome for this, the criteria 2, curriculum teaching learning process. And this in this criteria, we'll learn about the course program curriculum as well as the teaching learning process. So actually, in this second slide, I have given a screenshot of this content, which I have taken from the NBA website. And just you can go through this. In this, the criteria have been given in one column, and next column, the marks have been given. And the third column is about the evaluation guidelines. And whatever we are doing, and there is an evaluation guidelines, and what are the exhibits or the contents to be observed or assessed is very, very important. That's a documentary evidence is very important. And whatever we have given in this evaluation guidance should be observed or assessed will be by the peer team. And these documents we have to keep ready for the evaluation also. Anyhow, we will be going through all this criteria. So just for a recap, I'm just showing this. This is what exactly is given by the NBA. So this is the second slide. It's here you can see about 2.2.1, the quality of teaching and what are the exhibit contents to be observed or assessed by the peer team, and what we have give the documentary evidence that is also given in this. So everything is available in the NBA website, and you can go through all this thing which is available. And this is 2.2.3 criteria, and here this quality of students project is also assessed. And this we can see what are the evaluation criteria is given, and what are the proofs are supposed to be we have to produce when the peer team comes to our university for verification.
Sorry for the disturbance, ma'am. Your slide is not moving.
I don't know what is the problem. I'll get out.
How it's moving.
Yes, madam. I think if I keep it in full screen, that's not going on. Okay, so I'll come back. I'll just go for this recap. So this screenshot is I have taken from this NBA website only. This you can see it in the NBA portal also. So here the criteria, sub-criteria is given clearly, and this evaluation is also given clearly. And the second column, this exhibit contest and observed as you would have seen now. And in this, what are the documents we are supposed to exhibit during the peer team or for the visit or for during the assessment is given. We have supposed to keep all these documents ready when the peer team visit our institution for NBA accreditation. And this is 2.2.1. We have to, this quality of teaching learning process is also given, and this evaluation criteria is given on the right-hand side. And the documents which we are supposed to exhibit is given here. Anyhow, we'll be seeing in all this in details in the upcoming talk. So this is about quality of students project. In this, what are the evaluation criteria, and the marks awarded is 25. The evaluation criteria as well as the documentary evidence is given here. And the last one is initiative related to industry internship summer training. This is also equally important for NBA accreditation. This is also given here. So before going into this criteria, we should know about this tier 1 and tier 2 institution. So generally this tier 1 institution is comes under this all this IIT, our deemed institution, and BITS Pilani. These are all comes under tier 1 institution. And the tier 2, what are the affiliated institution generally comes under this tier 2 category. This is non-autonomous, and the tier 1, we all deemed university category will generally fall off. So coming to this marks allocation, it varies for a few categories or few sub-criterion varies for tier 1 on tier 2 institution. Here the 2.1 is program outcomes and 2.2 is teaching learning process. In the tier 1 institution, it is a program outcome is 30 marks and teaching learning process is 70 marks and totally 100 marks. In the tier 2 institutions, it is 20 plus 100, it is 120 marks. So here you can see the variation in the tier 2 and tier 1 institution, the marks differs actually. So based on that, the evaluation process will be done by the NBA accreditation or the peer team. So before we proceed at the outset, it's worth mentioning that NBA requires fairly large amount of details to be provided by the department under the criterion. It can be quite daunting and tasking task for the department to provide all these details. At least it's going to for accreditation for the first time. However, all the information required is quite logical related to the criterion, and it requires to be provided by the department. So sub-criterion 2.1 program curriculum for the institute. There are 4 sub-criterions. State the process for designing the program curriculum. Note that for Tier 1 institution, the curriculum design is responsibility of the department itself. So first sub-criterion deals with the process of designing the program curriculum, that is 10 marks. Number 2 is structure of curriculum, that carries 5 marks. And number 3 is state the components of the curriculum, it carries 5 marks. The process used to identify the extent to which the curriculum addresses the POs, that's the program outcomes and program specific outcomes. State the process used to identify extent of compliance of curriculum for attaining POs and PSOs. It carries 10 marks, so the total is 30 marks. So if you look at the guidelines for these sub-criterions, we'll get an understanding of requirements that the department has to meet in order to score well under this criterion. The process for designing the program curriculum, the evaluation guidelines would be the process used to demonstrate how the program curriculum is evolved and periodically reviewed, considering POS and PSOs. It's also interesting that NBA expects the industry to be involved in the process of formulating the curriculum for Tier 1 institute. So it's also at the, looks the involvement of the industry also. The department must provide documentary evidence to indicate the process which demonstrate how the program curriculum is evolved and periodically reviewed considering all this program outcomes and program specific outcomes. The department must have a process document, and also it must have implementation records. The implementation records must show the active participation of all the stakeholders concerned. The process documents must specify the composition of the Board of Studies, the periodicity of the meeting, and the inclusion of the industry in the liberation of the Board of Studies. In fact, actually, the Board of Studies can have 1 to 2 members from the industry to ensure that the curriculum matches requirement of the industry also. The department must also provide the minutes of meeting of Board of Studies. Feedback and review mechanism must be clearly spelled out in the process document. The curriculum must be mapped to all the program outcomes and program specific outcomes, and the matrix showing the correlation of POs and PSOs must be available. Since these are all important, I'm just giving all the text in the slide. And when we are moving on, it will be concise only. Next one, the sub-criteria 2.12 and 2.13. The structural curriculum and components of the curriculum indicate to a certain extent quality of the curriculum. The expectation of the NBA are captured in the criteria 2.1.2 and 2.1.3 in the SAR. It shows that curriculum must be well balanced. It must have a structure that is appropriate for a degree program, and the documentary evidence must show that the curriculum is balanced and appropriate for a degree program. You can see in all the things I'm using a word documentary evidence. So the documentary evidence should be logical and should be well shown or well prepared during the peer team. That's very, very important. The components of the curriculum must also be clearly shown. So the structure of the curriculum must be presented in this tabular format that is provided in the SAR. The course code, you can see the course code, the course title, and the credits. It also requires the department to specify the total number of contact hours for lecture, for tutorials, and for practical. Note that the relation between the credit load and the number of contact hours is well defined both by AICT or any other stationary bodies also. It depends upon the course or the programs. The relationship between the total number of contact hours and this credit hours as shown in this table differs substantially from the guidelines provided by the statutory bodies or the AACT, and it could be a problem. So department must show the total number of contact hours also, and total number of contact hours shown must match with those required for the specific credit structure. So you should be very much confident that the hours shown should match with the credit structure also. Seminars, project works may be considered as practical for the purpose of entering information into this tablet. So you can consider all this project works and seminars also for this criteria. Then the components of the curriculum are shown in this tabular column, which is shown here. And this is what is expected by the department as per this SAR. So course completion, so course component can be categorized into, you can see the basic science, engineering sciences, humanities, and social sciences program, core program, electives, open electives, projects or project, internships, seminars. If there is any other academic component that needs to be specified well. Again, each component, the percentage of the total number of credits of the program to the component must be mentioned. Total number of contact hours also must be mentioned, and total number of credit must be also mentioned. So I'm stressing here also that the contact hours should match us with the credit also. This table is used to access the quality of components of curriculum. Again, guidelines for the curriculum components are provided by either by AACT or UGC or any other statutory body. And some guidelines regarding to the percentage of various curriculum components is also given. The department can evolve these percentage suitably close to the guidance which is provided by AACT or UGC or any other norms of or any stationary bodies, whichever the department or this Tier 1 or Tier 2 institute follows. Subcriterion 2.1.4. This deals with the process used to identify the extent of compliance of the curriculum for attaining the program outcomes and program specific outcomes. What is the capability of this curriculum in terms of addressing the program outcomes specified by NBA and also program specific outcomes formulated by the department? The process must clearly show how the mapping is established between curriculum, program outcomes, and program specific outcomes. And from this mapping, the department must be able to determine the extent to which the curriculum will enable the students to attain the program outcomes and program specific outcomes. The documentary evidence must be available to indicate the process which ensures the mapping and compliance of the curriculum with the program outcomes and program specific outcomes. Here also, the documentary evidence plays a very major role. There are many different ways Okay, I'm sorry for the disturbance. There are many different ways of developing a process document for this purpose. One sample is shown here, the program articulation matrix, which will be seen later in the subcriterion 3.1, depicts the correlation between the courses and the POs and PSO. We'll be seeing the articulation matrix in the subcriterion, criteria 3 only. When we look at this regarding a particular program outcome, the different courses which address the program outcomes are mentioned. So if you look at the column, if it is an average column, it's a measure of access to which the curriculum is compliant to the particular PO. So by looking the averages of the column, we can arrive at an estimation or we can come to the conclusion to the extent which the curriculum is addressing the different program outcomes or program specific outcomes. Suppose the average is sparse, which the corresponding PO or program specific outcomes is not adequately addressed by the curriculum. This would mean that the curriculum is not addressing it. I mean, the curriculum is not addressing or it's not in par with the program outcome or program specific outcome if the average is sparse. Expectation from relevant organizations like AACT or any other professional bodies and industries may be considered in looking at the quality of the curriculum. The department must have a process document as well as implementation records. So for all this program articulation matrix, all this documentation and implementation record is must, and definitely the peer team will review all these records. The subcriterion 2.1, the program curriculum. This is now for tier 2 institute only. The sub criteria, as I said earlier, few things or few evaluations for done for tier 1 or tier 2, and the marks also varies. In some category, both are same. So in this, this 2.1 program curriculum is for this. I'm going to explain for this tier 2 institute only. The sub criteria or state the process used to identify the extent of compliance of the university curriculum for attaining the POS and PSOs. Mention the identify circular gaps, if any. We can recall that for tier 2 institute, the curriculum is provided by the university. As I said, this tier 1 institution is like IIT or a deemed university, and the other tier 2 institute just follows the university or the affiliated institution. So the curriculum is provided by the affiliated universities only. So the department has no role in designing the curriculum, but the department must determine the extent to which the curriculum provided by the university enable the student to attain the program outcome and program specific outcome. So even though the syllabus is not provided by the institution, the university, the department must ensure that to attain the POs and PSOs. Sorry, excuse me, the connection failed out. One second. Yeah, I'm coming back. So the department must have a process to identify the extent of compliance of the university curriculum. This I'm talking about for tier 2 institute. So whenever they get from the university also, the department must ensure the compliance of the university also for attaining all this program outcome and program specific outcomes. The department must note if there is any curricular gaps also. If the curriculum provided by the university is not effectively addressing certain program outcomes, the department must take or note of these program outcomes or the gap, and that becomes the basis for identifying the curriculum gap. So even though the department is not responsible for framing the syllabus, but it should be responsible for the attainment of this program outcomes. So there are 10 marks for this sub criteria. The department finds that there are curriculum gaps, that it must organize delivery of content beyond the syllabus to help the attainment. So this is very, very important. So when there is curriculum gaps, it should be filled. So we can organize delivery of content beyond the syllabus to help the attainment of program outcomes and program specific outcomes, which are addressed by the curriculum only. We can state the delivery details of the content beyond the syllabus for the attainment of this. And this sub-criterion carries 10 marks. So the total would be 20 marks. NBA states that if the program outcomes and program specific outcomes are being demonstrably met through the university curriculum, then this 2.1.2 criteria will not be applicable, and the weightage of this 2.1.1, the first one, will be 20. You understand? I think so. So when it's not applicable, when the 1.2 is not applicable, the mark automatically by default goes to the first criteria itself, that is 2.1.1, and the mark changes to 20 marks. However, it is very rare to find the university curriculum that can effectively meet the requirements of all the program outcomes. Most of the cases, the department would be finding certain curriculum gaps, and we can't avoid this curricular gaps. However, in the case of university curriculum, it's able to effectively address all the program outcomes and program specific outcomes. And if the demonstration by the department is satisfactory, then this criteria 2.1.2 would not be relevant. So this is especially important for the tier 2 institute only. So whenever in the tier 1, the syllabus is framed by the university, and generally their goal is to attain the attainment which is prescribed in the program outcome. So tier 1 will not face this problem, only this tier 2 will face this criteria. The sub-criteria 2.1.1 requires the department to state So the sub-criteria 2.1.1 requires the department to state the process used to identify the extent of compliance of the university curriculum for attaining the POs and PSOs. The process of determining the extent to which the university curriculum addresses the program outcomes and program specific outcomes effectively can be quite similar to the process followed by the Tier 1 institute. Create the program articular matrix, look at each individual column to see the extent of the curriculum is able to address that particular program outcome. So the process can be quite similar, but the process which is used for such purpose carries 6 marks. That's A. And B is list the curriculum gaps for the attainments of defined program outcomes and program specific outcomes. This carries 4 marks. We must have the documentary evidence to indicate the process which ensures the mapping compliance of the university curriculum with the program outcome and program specific outcomes. And if any gaps are identified, the department must list those gaps. There must be effective participation of internal and external department stakeholders with effective process implementation. So when you find some curriculum gaps in between this program outcome and program specific outcome, it should be met, and there should be participation of some stakeholders so that the process is implemented and this curriculum gaps is solved or the attainment is done. The department must have implementation record to show the effective implementation of the purpose. So whatever improvement or whatever we are steps taken for the attainment of this courses or the attainment of this program outcome, all this should be implemented and recorded properly. The process used to identify the extent of compliance of the university curriculum for attaining the program outcomes and program specific outcomes can be quite similar to the one described for Tier 1 institute as already mentioned. The identified curriculum gaps, if any, must be listed along with the justification for the appropriateness of the identified gaps. The department must provide the reasoning based on which is identify the curriculum gaps. And the department must obviously have proper process, document, and implementation record. This is what I said in the last slide also. Sub-criteria 2.1.2, this requires the department to provide delivery details of the content beyond the syllabus. And earlier in previous slides, I said about this content beyond the syllabus to attain the program outcome and program specific outcomes. And we have to have the details of the syllabus for the attainment of program outcomes and program specific outcomes. If the department finds that there are gaps in the curriculum in terms of its ability to address effectively certain program outcomes and or program specific outcomes, then it must plan delivery of content beyond the curriculum to help the students attain those program outcome and program specific outcomes. So if you find any curriculum gap, it should be solved by providing beyond the content syllabus, and everything should be properly implemented and recorded also. It must list the details of delivery of content beyond the curriculum. The evaluation guidelines during the assessment includes an examination of the steps taken by the department to get an identified gaps included in the curriculum. So whenever the peer team is coming, it definitely will examine all the evaluation guidelines which are chosen by the, whether it's a Tier 1 institute or Tier 2 institute. The department must write a letter actually to appropriate authorities of the university, either a chairperson of the board of studies or registrar of the university, if it is a Tier 1 institute, indicating the identified curriculum gaps and suggesting what additional courses could be included in the curriculum to make it effective in terms of addressing all the program outcomes and program specific outcomes. So whenever you are implementing to fill the curriculum gaps, it should be through the proper channels or the authorities of the university from the higher level or from the board of studies. In fact, if the department can maintain a copy of such letter written to the university, the peer team that itself will fetch 2 marks. So the communication of letter is also very important, which should be documented properly. There are 3 guidelines. Number 1 is the steps taken by the department. Number 2 is the delivery details of the content beyond the syllabus. And the third is the mapping of the content beyond the syllabus. with the program outcomes and program specific outcomes. These three aspects carries 2 marks, 5 marks, 3 marks respectively, and the total marks is 10. Subcriteria 2.1.2. The department must have evidence that it has communicated to the university regarding the identified curriculum gaps. So as I said in the last slide also, we have to document all the communication letter to the higher authority. So that itself carries 2 marks. So a letter to the affiliating university and chairperson, University Board of Studies, everything should be through proper channels of the course, providing inputs and suggestions regarding curriculum gaps and possible addition of new content or add-on courses in the curriculum to bridge the gap and better attain the program outcomes. The department must be able to produce evidence of such a communication. It must also have evidence of a periodic follow-up action regarding this issue. Delivery details of content beyond the syllabus is the next aspect examined by the committee. Documentary evidence of delivery details of content beyond the syllabus year-wise in the specified formats must have provided by the department. For the past 3 academic years, the department must provide these details. So this is very important. We have to give all the documents for the past 3 academic years. The content beyond syllabus may include additional course, learning material, content provided to the student, or laboratory experiment, projects, etc. So you can choose any of this content beyond the syllabus, and this can be included in the curriculum to attain the program outcome or program specific outcomes also. The mapping between the additional content of this PO or PSOs addressed by the content should be justifiable. Why this additional content is being provided? What are the program outcomes or program specific outcomes addressed by the additional content? So these details must be provided by the department. The additional content, why it is provided, why the program outcome and program specific outcome addressed by this additional content. So these two are very important. These should be provided by the department. It is a good practice to analyze the impact of the additional content delivered. For example, the department is offering an add-on course in order to address a particular program outcome. Let us say program outcome 5 or 3. Then it is worthwhile for the department to do some kind of survey to assess the extent to which that add-on course is enabling the student to attain that particular program outcome in a better way. So you can just keep it in mind that though we are giving an additional content and we are maintaining documentation from the higher authorities of Board of Studies, finally, we have to keep a departmental survey from the students to assess whether the add-on courses enabling the students to attain the program outcome in a better way. So this survey is very important in the final thing. One second, madam.
Madam, your voice is not audible, ma'am.
1 second, madam. The slide has stuck. 1 second, I'll get
Okay,
back. Okay, sorry, ma. So the delivery details of the content beyond the syllabus must be provided in the format that is indicated by the SAR. What is the identified gap? What is the action taken? You can see in the tabular column. And when was it action taken? We have to mention the date, month, and the year. The resource person with designation who provided this additional content or material is also equally important. how many students attended this program as a percentage of total of students in that class. And most importantly, what is the relevance of this program outcomes and program specific outcomes is also important. The mapping between the additional content and the program outcomes and program specific outcomes must be provided. And this mapping must be done with considerable care and it must be justifiable. So this is also very important. The peer team will definitely ask you to show the documentation of this mapping and whether it's justified or not. The next aspect is mapping of the content beyond the syllabus with the program outcomes and program specific outcomes. Availability and appropriateness mapping table between the content delivered and POs and PSOs. As already noted, the mapping between the additional contents delivered, the program outcomes and program specific outcomes must be available and appropriate. Many departments do initiate and execute a large number of activities in this direction to address their curriculum gaps. However, the departments need to exercise good care in stating the mappings. Often the contents which is delivered may not really relevant to the program outcomes or program specific outcomes, which is listed earlier. For example, if we say a department organizes a technical course to address some of the latest development in specific domain, and the mapping is to some criteria which was this map to, and we can say like basic science chapter like environment. Well, the content may really address that particular program outcome, but quite often it does not have any relationship to that particular program outcome. The departments are sometimes casual in entering the relevant program outcomes and program specific outcomes. That would not be proper way of completing this table. Anyhow, the department must ensure that the mapping is proper, appropriate, and justifiable. So I just want to concise that though we are organizing a purely technical course for based on the latest development in the specific domain, the mapping should be done in a proper way and it should be appropriate and justified also. So I have almost completed this program curriculum chapter, and this next chapter we are going to see about the teaching learning process also. This is sub-criterion 2.2, teaching learning process, which is very important. And so this outcome for this unit is understanding the SAR requirements related to the teaching learning process. The sub-criteria is concerned with the quality of teaching and learning, examination and projects. It is also concerned with interaction with industry, internship, summer training for the students. In the sub-criteria, the department is expected to provide substantial details regarding all these academic activities. There are 5 sub-criteria. They are almost similar, same for both the Tier 1 and Tier 2 institute, though allocation of marks are different. So you can see all this are similar or same for both Tier 1 and Tier 2, but allocation of marks are different for Tier 1 and Tier 2 institute. These are the allocation of marks between the Tier 1 and Tier 2 institute for the 5 sub-criteria. The first sub-criteria that is describe the process followed to improve quality of teaching learning. This is extremely an important sub-criteria which requires fairly large amount of details to be provided by the department. The marks allocation is 15 for Tier 1 institute and 25 for the Tier 2 institute. 2.2.2 is concerned with the quality of end semester examination, internal semester question papers, assignments, and evaluation. 15 and 20 marks, but note that the end semester examination has no relevance for the Tier 2 institute. For a Tier 2 institute, the end semester examination is the responsibility of the affiliating university. As I said earlier, all this Tier 2 institute is affiliated by any university. So that affiliating university becomes responsible for this. 2.2.3 is the concern with the quality of student projects, 20 marks and 25 marks for Tier 1 and Tier 2 respectively. 2.2.4 is concerned with the initiatives related to industry interaction. And finally, 2.2.5 is about the initiatives related to industry, internship, and summer training. For the tier 1 institute, the total marks come to 70, while it is 100 for tier 2 institute. So I'm just giving this similarity or the differences so that you will able to get an idea what does tier 1 institute marks is allotted and tier 2 marks is allocated. Let us look at the first sub-criterion 2.2.1, which is related to the process followed to improve the quality of teaching learning. There are several aspects of the teaching learning process which are examined by the visiting committee to understand the initiatives of the department to improve the quality of teaching learning. The first guideline is adherence to academic calendar. Then pedagogical initiatives need to be described. Then the development must indicate the methodologies to support weak students and encourage bright students. The next aspect is the quality of classroom teaching. The next aspect is conduct of experiments in laboratories. The next aspect is continuous assessment in the laboratories. Then finally, the visiting team looks at what the department is actually doing with the student feedback of teaching learning process. So the feedback also plays a major role. So the total marks for the tier 1 institute would be 15, and while it would be 25 for the tier 2 institute. Each of these guidelines would require substantial amount of documentary evidence to prove that the initiatives taken by the department. In fact, any claim made under this sub-criteria must be backed up by documentary evidence. So all this quality of teaching learning process, the evaluation guidelines need their documentary evidence for the peer team also. Describe the process followed to improve the quality of teaching learning process. The first exhibits would be the availability of the academic calendar based on, you can see in the previous slide, I have given all this A to G, I have given the evaluation guidelines, and the next we are going to see in detail. The first exhibit would be the availability of the academic calendar based on the university academic calendar and its effective compliance. So all the university is following academic calendar, and I hope it is effectively followed. Any institute generally has an academic calendar that is based on the academic calendar of the university. However, it is also required that the department demonstrates that department is compiling with this academic calendar. The department must have records showing compliance to such a calendar. The records must show that the academic events like internal tests, which is very important, are being organized as per the schedule. Any deviation must be recorded along with the reasons for such deviation. Quite often, the departments only have academic calendar, but no record demonstrating the compliance to that calendar. It is necessary that the department maintains a record showing compliance to the academic calendar. The next aspect is pedagogical initiatives. Documentary evidence to support implementation of pedagogical initiatives such as real-life examples, collaborative learning, ICT support learning, interactive classrooms, etc. Any pedagogical initiative claimed by the department must be backed up by the appropriate documentary evidences. Thus, documentary evidence must be available for every
Madam, you're not audible, madam.
I think the connectivity problem will be there. Just wait, she will be joining.
Sorry, madam, there was a break. Huh?
Yeah, some internet.
Yeah, okay, yes. Okay, I'll just repeat. This aspect is pedagogical initiatives. Documentary evidence to support this implementation of pedagogical initiatives such as real-life examples, and what the teacher does in the classroom. There is a collaborative learning and ICT supported learning, interactive classrooms, etc. Any pedagogical initiative claimed by the department must be backed up by appropriate documentary evidences. Thus, documentary evidence must be available for every pedagogical initiative claimed by the department. So generally, we follow this lesson plans. Teaching diaries must show evidence of the initiative being planned and implemented. If the department claims that it has implemented a particular initiative like collaborative learning, then it must demonstrate the course in which the activity was implemented, when that activity was planned, and it must back up all these claims with appropriate documentary evidence, including the lesson plan or teaching diary or the equivalent implementation records that the department maintains. Because in few institutions, they follow a lesson plan. In few other institutions, they follow a different mode of documentary evidence, and whatever it is, whatever the department maintains should be there with properly justified file. It is also desirable to access the impact of this initiative. The department could conduct a survey, for example, to determine the extent to which the initiative is found to be effective. Thus, here the survey also plays a major role. Thus, the most important aspect of this particular activity of improving the quality of teaching learning is that every initiative has appropriate documentary evidence. Next one is C, the methodologies to support weak students and encourage bright students. This is also an important sub-criteria. Many of the colleges or institutions do provide some remedial teaching to help weak students. Some institutes do initiate certain activities to encourage bright students also. But often the departments may not have a written procedure for identifying the weak students and the bright students. Informal guidelines are followed to identify the weak students and bright students. So generally in many institutions, we like to encourage the bright students, as well as we'll identify the weak students, and we'll keep a re-exam or reschedule of any other examination formative assessment. But still, the department may not have a written procedure. There should be a proper procedure for identifying the weak students as well as the bright students. The informal guidelines are followed to identify the weak students and bright students, but generally the NBA requires all these guidelines must be based on a well-documented process. Guidelines to identify the weak and bright students must exist. After identification, the actions that's initiated by the department must be recorded. The department must also note the impact of these activities. So a written procedure must be available for identifying weak and bright students. Often the identification of weak and bright students is based on their performance in the internal test or any other quiz or any other mode of assessment. However, many departments do not have a clear written procedure stating the guidelines for identifying the weak and bright students. The department must have a written procedure. The evidence of following this procedure must also be available. Records of initiatives like remedial classes for weak students must be maintained. So generally, when we are maintaining few records. So I'll just say, when the classes are held up, that should be recorded. Who are the students who attend these classes, that should be there. The attendance should be there. The faculty who handle the remedial classes, that also should be included. All these details must be available within the department. And the record of initiative like optional assignments to challenge the bright students must also be maintained. So for bright students, for weak students, we are keeping a remedial classes, and we are keeping improvement exams or any sort of things which is approved by the department. But for the bright students also, we should keep some optional assignments to challenge the bright students. And it is a good practice to determine the impact of such initiatives. So record of impact analysis must also be available. Though we are following many remedial classes, we are not maintaining many records. So anyway, all this record initiatives and everything is very, very important for this sub-criteria. The next aspect is the quality of classroom teaching. Usually the visiting committee will determine the quality of the classroom teaching by their subjective perception of this aspect through attending certain selective classes. So generally the peer team will attend any classes and the option is left to them only. So they will select any classes. It may be an instructional class or it may be ICT class. It depends upon the peer team only. They also look at the classroom ambience, the effort made by the faculty to keep the students engaged. Also, sometimes they will also refer the lesson plan, attendance, or any other notes or lessons or any other materials given to the students, or whether the students have been engaged through this quizzes or group discussion. All this will be noted by the peer team when they visit the classrooms. Further, the visiting committee will determine the quality of the classroom teaching during their interaction with the students also. So you can just note down that peer team will definitely interact with the class students who are available in the classroom, and they will ask their feedback also, which is very important in this criteria. The students. So this aspect is more or less subject to perception of the visiting team only. So there is no record of evidence for this. So it is in the on the day of your team visit, and this is going to happen. The conduct of experiment, the quality of laboratory experience with respect to conducting the experiment. So if the peer team is visiting any other practical classes, and the conduct of experiment, quality of laboratory experience with respect to the conducting the experiment, recording observation, analysis of data, all this will be taken care by the peer team, and definitely they're going to check all this data. This aspect is also verified by the visiting team during the interaction with the students. So whenever if the students are in laboratory, also the visiting team will interact with them. Sometimes they may also visit the laboratory and watch while the students are conducting the experiment. So this aspect is also based on subjective assessment by the visiting team. So the team will have a visit over the theory classes or ICT enabled classes, or it may be a direct instruction classes, and also the laboratory classes also, which is very important. Next is continuous assessment in the laboratory, internal semester examination, and internal marks. Thereof, practical record books, each experiment assessment, final marks based on assessment of all the experiments and other assessments, if any. This is what is expected from the department. Records must be available showing assessment of each experiment as a record of that subject. Final assessment, internal examination marks, if it is relevant or if it is needed, and so on. The department must have clear records indicating the continuous assessment and evaluation during the laboratory work. So this is very important. The teacher should have, or it should be available in the laboratory, the continuous assessment mark records as well as the evaluation during the laboratory work. Student feedback of, next is student feedback of teaching learning process and the actions taken. The department is expected to provide the feedback format used, the frequency with which the feedback is collected, analysis and actions taken, and the visiting team verifies these statements during their interaction with students also. So the interaction with students plays a crucial role in this evaluation. All institutes generally do collect student feedback. Format and frequency are also generally defined episodically. However, many departments do not have any record showing the analysis of the feedback data, nor do they have records of any actions taken. As noted earlier, it is essential to analyze the feedback data, take appropriate action, and maintain relevant records. So not only getting feedback is important, we have to analyze the feedback data, take appropriate actions, and maintain relevant records. Subcriteria 2.2 is concerned with the quality of assessment, the quality of end semester examination, internal semester question papers, assignments, and evaluation. There are 4 aspects which are looked into by the visiting team. Process for internal semester question paper Sorry, madam. This was a trouble. Okay, I'm coming back. So subcriterion 2.2.2 is concerned with the quality of assessment, the quality of end semester examination, internal semester question papers, assignment, and evaluation. The process for internal semester question paper setting and evaluation and effective process implementation. Process to ensure question from outcome learning levels perspective. The learning level is same as the cognitive level of outcome in this. The evidence of the course outcomes coverage in class test and midterm test or formative assessment. Quality of assignment and relevance to the course outcomes. The allocation of the marks are different for tier 1 and tier 2 institute, but the expectation are quite similar. Tier 1 institute has a total marks of 15, while tier 2 institute has a total marks of 20. So you can see the variation in the tier 1 and tier 2 institute, though the expectation was quite similar, but the marks varies. Next is subcriterion 2.2, the guidelines and exhibit for A. Process for internal semester question paper setting and evaluation and effective process implementation. We must have a process for internal semester question paper setting actually, and evaluation and effective process implementation also must be demonstrated well. The process of internal semester question paper setting must be available. The process must include the requirement that the teacher must provide model answers, evaluation guidelines, and the department must show that the particular process is being implemented properly. So the records required would be the process documents and the implementation records. The process document would include the schedule of the internal examination, the format including the tags to be provided along with the question. So this is also very important. Then we need a process. Next one is B, the process to ensure questions from outcomes learning levels perspective. We need a process to ensure questions from the outcomes learning levels perspective also. Question paper validation is required to ensure desired standards from the outcome attainment perspective as well as learning level perspective. So this is also important. Both the outcome attainment is equally important with learning level also. In other words, the question related to the course outcome must be appropriate in the cognitive levels. The questions must address all the course outcomes in a balanced fashion. That means the papers must be of certain quality to ensure that the cognitive levels are proper and the coverage of the COS is also proper. So question papers need to be validated. There is a necessary to set up a scrutiny committee for this purpose. So question paper scrutiny committee must be established. So this is also important. The peer team will ask for the question paper scrutiny committee team papers. What should be the composition of such a scrutiny committee? Generally, different departments have different perspectives regarding composition of such a committee. But generally, it is good practice to have a small committee from the requirements of confidentiality and integrity. But the committee must be able to scrutinize all the internal examination question papers belonging to all the courses. So this is also important. All the question paper should be validated before it reaches the students. Process for question paper validation must be available. Implementation records must be available, and they must also include information about if there is any rejected question paper or modified question paper. Sometimes the scrutiny committee will check the relevance of the CO, and if it is not relevant, they may reject the question paper and the faculty will be asked to give a modified question paper. So whatever may be, this information should be recorded and it should be implemented also. If the validation committee or the scrutiny committee finds that certain question papers are of inferior quality, the committee may reject them. But the records of such rejection also must be maintained well. This should demonstrate compliance to the proper in its true spirit, so that there will be improvement or development in this setting up of question papers. Next is see the evidence of course outcomes coverage in class tests as well as mid tests or sometimes in any other formative assessment also. The evidence of course outcome coverage in this test or mapping of questions with the course outcomes is relevant. Questions must be tagged with the course outcomes. The mapping must be justified. And the department must ensure that all these course outcomes are addressed through the total number of internal assessment mechanism used. So this is also important. How much of internal assessment have we done? We have to map all this CO and it should be justified. People will be, many teachers will have some doubt whether should the tags be exposed to the students, whether the mappings or this, questions which are mapped with the CO should be shown to the students or exposed to the students. Yes, of course, definitely. All the departments have different perspectives, but we don't see, or the peer team or the NBA doesn't see any harm in the students seeing the mapping between the questions and the COs. So it's my advice. So whenever you are giving a question paper, you can give the CO mapping also, so that the students will also learn whether they are attaining the course levels or not. And D is quality of assignment and its relevance to the course outcomes. So we are supposed to exhibit the assignments must be in such a way that they promote the self-learning by the students, and they require the students to gather data from multiple sources. The quality of assignments is extremely important. Assignment evaluation and feedback to the students is also examined by the visiting committee. So the assignment evaluation, the proper rubric should be presented to the peer team. Further, the mapping between the assignments and course outcomes is also examined by the visiting committee. Evaluation of the assignments and providing feedback to the students are essential. These activities represent substantial load on the faculty, and because of this heavy load, it may sometimes happen that evaluation of the assignment is done in a casual fashion and practically no feedback is provided to the students. So overloading will give it in this perception also. So we are supposed to avoid this. Anyway, in such a case, the assignments will not really serve any useful academic purpose. So though it represents heavy load, faculty must evaluate the assignments and provide feedback to the students, and the department must maintain a record for all these activities. So assignments also must be mapped with the course outcomes. The mapping must be justifiable. As mentioned earlier, many departments are doing the assignments too casually, but this must be avoided. So everything is very important, and assignment also plays a major role in the evaluation. Subcriteria 2.2.3 is concerned with the quality of student project. The evaluation guidelines are somewhat different between the Tier 1 institute and Tier 2 institute. They are similar in spirit but different in details. There are several aspects related to the projects which are examined by the visiting team. One is identification of projects and allocation methodology to faculty members, types and relevance of the projects and their contribution towards attainment of program outcome and program specific outcomes. Projects related to industry, process for monitoring and evaluation of the projects, process to assess individual and team performance, quality of completed projects, availability of working prototypes, evidences of paper published, awards received by projects, etc. So see that there is a fairly detailed list of evaluation guidelines provided for this particular sub-criteria. Anyway, we'll be seeing one by one. If you look at the Tier 2 institute, the evaluation guidelines are quite similar, but the allocation of marks is different, as I said you earlier. If we look at the Tier 1 and Tier 2 institute in relation with this sub-criteria, we see that the evaluation guidelines C of Tier 2 institute is absent for Tier 2 institute. That is what I mentioned. Project related to industry has no relevance to Tier 2 institute, but project related to industry are more important for the Tier 1 institute. Thus, Tier 2 institute has only 6 evaluation guidelines, while Tier 1 institute has 7 guidelines. Since additionally, project related to industry is more relevant for Tier 1 institute only and not for Tier 2. The remaining evaluation guidelines are identical in both the cases, though the allocation of marks are different. Identification of projects and allocation methodology to faculty members is extremely important aspect of implementing the project. Project is a curricular component for most of the departments. They do follow a process. However, some may not have a process document or a written process document indicating the details of guidelines for project identification and allocation of project guides. There may be following informal procedure. It is essential to have a written, well-defined process document and also maintain implementation records. Better to have an institute-wide process common to all programs. If the institute has an IQAC, that's an internal quality assurance cell, that cell can be involved with this process formation activity. So everything should be properly documented and implemented. Projects can be classified into application type, or product type, or research type, or review type, etc. But it's important that the projects taken into account factors such as ethics, standards, and mapping with program outcome and program specific outcomes. Program outcomes and program specific outcomes. These are related to some of the program outcomes specified by the NBA, which are otherwise not well addressed. Process document must indicate that the project would consider factors as indicated above. The department must also have rubrics for the project evaluation, which includes these attributes. Periodic monitoring also must consider in these factors. The periodic monitoring must assess the extent to which the project aims are taking into account factors, as like said earlier. Whether the project is related to industry, this aspect is examined only for Tier 1 institute. Then we need to have a process for regular monitoring and evaluation. This is called as guideline C for Tier 2 institute. But other than this change in the name of the guideline, the spirit is same. Subcriterion 2.2.3, the guidelines and XMM continuing with C and D, process for the process for monitoring and evaluation, process to assess individual and team performance. A project generally is implemented by a team of 4 to 5 members. Thus, there is a contribution individually as well as contribution as a group. These two aspects must be properly assessed and evaluated. So we must have a methodology which is appropriately documented to access individual contribution and understanding of the project, as well as collective understanding and contribution. Process must include appropriate rubrics. The rubrics is very important here. The methodology must be documented and implementation records must reflect adherence to the documented methodology. A good practice is to share these details with the students also. What are the rubrics based on which the individual performance is assessed and how the group performance is separated from the individual performance? The next one is quality of completed projects. Working prototypes is also examined by the visiting team. So the department can have a certain projects which in their opinion are of good quality available for inspection by the visiting team. Generally, the visiting team may expect certain projects of high quality, certain projects of average quality, and certain projects of relatively low quality to be available for inspection. So when the peer team visit the department, we should have copies of this high quality projects and average quality projects as well as the low quality projects, which have been evaluated based on the rubrics which was framed by the department, and it was approved, implemented, documented and implemented also. They may wish to have a demonstration of the sometimes project also. So the guide should be available and they should be able to demonstrate when the peer team wish to demonstrate about that project, whether it may be a high quality project or average or even the low quality. The next aspect is the evidence of the paper published, awards received by the project. Quality of the place where the paper has been published is very important, and quality of the competition in which the award has been won would be basis on which the visiting team generally would assess the value of the paper published or the award received. Nowadays, we are going for Web of Science or impact factor or Scopus index journals. So the peer team will see whether the paper published is of good quality journal, and sometimes the award received by for the project is from basis, whether the quality of that competition is worthwhile or not. This also the visiting team will definitely evaluate. The department must maintain all these relevant details for the inspection by the visiting team. Subcriterion 2.2.4 is concerned with the initiatives related to the industry interaction. The guideline for Tier 1 institute are more or less similar to the guidelines for the Tier 2 institute. However, there are very minor differences both in terms of naming the guidelines as well as the marks allocated to them. For a Tier 1 institute, there are 4 aspects which are examined by the visiting team. Industry supported laboratories for 2 marks, industry involvement in the program design and curriculum 3 marks, industry involvement in partial delivery of any regular courses for the students carries 3 marks. The impact analysis of industry institute interaction and action taken thereof for 2 marks. For the Tier 2 institute, the evaluation guidelines are quite similar, but there are only 3 in number and total marks is 15. If you compare this Tier 1 institute with the Tier 2 institute with respect to this earlier sub-criteria, we notice that there are 10 marks for Tier 1 institute and while there are 15 marks for Tier 2 institute. 4 evaluation guidelines are there for Tier 1 institute, but there are only 3 evaluation guidelines for Tier 2 institute. However, the requirements are identical. I'm just sharing this so that you will know the difference between the Tier 1 institute given for this industry institutional collaboration and the marks carried by the Tier 1 and Tier 2. The first aspect that is examined by the team is, are there any industry supported laboratories, types of industry, types of labs, the objective with which these labs were established. What are the extent where the labs are getting utilized and what is the effectiveness of making these labs operational? These are all the aspects which are examined by the visiting team. It is necessary for both the Tier 1 and Tier 2 institute, the laboratories which are set up with this assistant from industry are properly operated to ensure their effectiveness. Records must be actually available to show the industry help in setting up this laboratory and utilization of these laboratories. The next aspect is industry involvement in the program design and partial delivery of any regular courses for the students. These are shown as 2 separate guidelines for Tier 1 institute, but they are combined into a single guideline for Tier 2 institute. But essentially, the department must have documentary evidence to show the participation of industry in the design of the program, and if any industry experts are participating in the delivery of a regular course for students, the department must have such records. So industry experts can deliver any regular courses for the students. They are most welcome, but all the records should be documented and implemented in a proper way. So the documentary evidence must show the involvement of industry both in the reason of the program as well as in the delivery of any regular courses for the student. The third aspect is missed by many departments often. The department need to analyze the impact of industry-institute interaction and initiate appropriate action based on that analysis. Impact analysis can be based on surveys also. Actions must be taken on based on impact analysis, and these actions must be recorded. Often departments miss this aspect of the industry-institute interaction. There are no records of impact analysis or records of action taken thereof. Department must take care to see that they collect appropriate data regarding the impact of these initiatives and they further record the actions taken by them based on this data and the analysis. So whatever the expert from the industry is giving, or it's a par with the course curriculum, all this initiative must be reviewed by the team based on the data and analysis only. The sub-criteria 2.2.5, which is the last one, is concerned with the initiatives related to industry, internship. There are 4 evaluation guidelines, which is given here. Industrial training tools for student, industrial internship summer training of more than 2 weeks, and post-training assessment. So this is very important. When there is an internship or summer trainings for more than 2 weeks is only taken for assessment. Impact analysis of industrial training, student feedback on this initiatives. There are 10 marks for tier 1 institute, and there are 15 marks for tier 2 institute. Now, many statutory bodies are made mandatory for institute to provide internship for the students, especially to meet this particular sub-criteria, which has become simpler nowadays. So students are sent for lot of industrial internship trainings also, and the impact of analysis also recorded. We must have a documentary evidence regarding the types of industry where the internship is provided. Whether all the activities are result of plans or some non-planned activities also happening. The department must also clearly list the objective for which this particular internship with the particular industry is being provided. It must have records of the number of students who have gone through the internship. It must also record the relevant area of training. Suppose if an institution or the department has a memorandum of understanding with any industry, the proper documentation is must. Students must be asked to submit reports of their internship or industrial visits or summer training courses, summer training, whatever activity they undertake. They must produce a report of that. Generally, we require the certificate and the analytical data also. And for the aspect C and D, the department must have impact analysis, and it must indicate what is the format of the feedback that they are using to collect data from the students. So this getting this feedback is also very important, and the format of the feedback is also very important. They must also record the essential. These activities represent substantial load on the faculty, and because of this heavy load, it may sometimes happen whether the initiative has been implemented in the department, it may improve the quality of teaching also. Here again, as with the earlier sub-criteria, many departments do provide internship opportunities for the students as well as summer training opportunities for the students. So both the internship is also provided and summer training opportunities also provided by the institute for the students. They do collect some form of feedback from the students. However, they sometimes miss to analyze this feedback data, and they miss to record any action initiated based on the informal analysis. But the peer team or the NBA requests that the departments formally record all the analysis of the feedback data and the action taken based on that analysis. So the documentary evidences with this industrial institute collaboration and the student participation also very equally important in the by the visiting team also. So I have referred these sites, so there is no any books or anything. This is also a learning process also. And when you read all this content, so all teacher, not only this NBA is student centered, is also teacher centered also. We can also have your learning, and we should also learn few aspects of this NBA, which will be very much useful. Yeah, I request all the teachers, including me, because I am also a teacher, to have a proper course outcome, and we are also should learn all the aspects given by the NBA, and we would like to implement the same, and we should try for the best from our side, so that the proper learning process or outcome-based education is reached out. And thank you for this opportunity. And
Thank you,
thank you.
ma'am. Yeah, it was a very long, elaborate lecture. You explained criteria 2. And I want some faculty to interact for criteria 2. Is there any specific doubt?
Criteria 2 team can interact.
Yes, sir. Dr. Ilanga sir.
All team are here in
Sir,
class.
mask you can take, sir. Voice not clear. Yes, sir.
Dr. Vijayanand, madam, thank you very much for your very elaborate presentation on criteria 2. I am audible?
Yes, sir. You're audible, sir. You're audible, sir.
Okay. Actually, we have started preparing our document, everything. So we had some doubt. What is some more clarification we require on this 2.2.2? Under that D subdivision, assignment and matching of COs. Is it to be collected for all the subject for 3 years, and how many number of assignment to be kept in the document evidence, madam?
Sir, we have to collect for all the subject. Definitely the team will expect, if it is a medicinal chemistry, they will ask her to show. And if it is a pharmaceutics also, they will expect to show us the assignment. Okay. Not only is concerned to one subject, it is for all the subjects.
All the subjects, okay. Yeah. Is it sample copy of 2 to 5 assignment is enough per subject?
It's a sample that is high level, average level, low level. Okay. All this level we are supposed to show, sir, and they will be expecting the rubrics in which the assignment have been evaluated also. That is also very important. And the rubric should be framed by the department people, which has been organized or which has been constituted by the head of the, in our case, we have a department committee and which has been constituted by the director, which was approved by the registrar. So that team scrutiny committee list should be also available, and they should have a proper rubrics for this assignment also, which has been evaluated based on the rubrics only. And based on the rubrics, it should be low, high, or average. So if you take one subject, all these types of assignment you are supposed to exhibit, sir.
Okay. I think we can have sample, right? We need not have all the 100 students assignment, right?
Yes, sir. You can have sample, but these variation you are supposed to show.
That okay.
High, average, and low level.
Okay. That we can prepare. What about, do we need to have the practical observation notebook for each subject, madam?
Yes, sir. We are supposed to have, sir, practical observation. Or sometimes in some institute, they'll be having manual. And whatever it is, all the students should have their manual or observation in their hand. And even though if it is an observation, a proper rubric should be followed, and the rubric should be available in the, whether it should be available in the class or on the department or whatever the subject concerns. But for the assessment, or if
we are having record book, madam, and the record book illama thaniya observation onu thaniya vechirukonuma, madam. Record book irukku, record pandrom, record note la eludranga.
Illa sir, record irundha record podum sir. Record ku 5 marks kuduthomna, on what basis rubrics have been framed and we have to justify.
Okay.
Because some institution they'll be giving the records at the end, adanala whatever it is, observation or manual or record, anything is sufficient, sir. So you can exhibit any of this.
Sir, madam, again for records we have to keep sample of 5 copies for each subject.
One copy.
Yes, madam. Here also, based on the rubrics, you are giving some marks, right? Suppose 5 out of 10, you are giving 5 for a candidate and 8 for a candidate. You have some rubrics for that, right, madam? So in that case also, you have to keep a sample record of highest mark, lowest mark, and average mark. 3 notebooks should be available in the laboratory.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Yes.
Madam, myself Sitaraman. Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please, sir.
Madam, I would like to have we have a section called as the student teacher interaction where we give some 2 marks for them. What type of document we have to keep it for them, madam? Like the student teacher interaction, we are giving 2 marks, madam. Whether to have any document for them, madam, when you are keeping for internal marks. Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We'll be having a questionnaire, sir.
Okay.
We can have a committee, and whatever questionnaire or whatever rubrics we should have a committee. That is very must, sir, actually. So just a teacher can't reach out the students with a set of questions or whatever may be. It should be properly implemented. So we can give some questions, questionnaire to the student, and we can get, sir.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Madam, what about the question paper, which is CO and PO is there, and for all the subjects, all the question paper for like we have sessional exam, so it has to be documented, right, ma'am?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Usually in our institution, we are following like the question paper will be already mapped with the CO, and the students will also aware what is the CO for that person, and the question paper will be as like with given to the session paper with the CO itself.
That is fine, ma'am. We'll actually we can do it, but university exam question paper la adu varala. உங்களுதுல வருதுங்களா? யூனிவர்சிட்டி क्वेश्चन பேப்பர்லயும் CO PO போட்டு தான் வருதா? Sessional exam, okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. In the university exam, it is not given, but the equal marks or the equal CO will be maintained over there, sir.
அதுல ஈக்குவலா மெயின்டைன் ஆகுது யூனிவர்சிட்டி 5 யூனிட்ஸ்.
பட் நாம வந்து ஒரு இது கொடுக்கிறது இல்ல சார், ஸ்டூடண்ட்ஸ்க்கு கொடுக்கிறது இல்ல. Only question paper will be there. Only in the internal assessment we are following this, sir.
Okay, madam. Internal assessment.
ஏன்னா ஸ்டூடெண்ட்ஸ் இன்டராக்ஷன் அப்போ கண்டிப்பா the exam, peer team is questioning the student whether they are aware, they are aware of the CO or PO or they attained it. And the questions எல்லாமே கண்டிப்பா they are asking the students. So அதுக்கு அவேர்னஸ் வரணுங்கிறதுனால நாங்க ஒரு 2 செமஸ்டரா நாங்க ஸ்டூடெண்ட்ஸ் கிட்டே அதை இம்ப்ளிமெண்ட் பண்ணிட்டோம் சார். அட்லீஸ்ட் அந்த क्वेश्चन பேப்பர் ஆன்சர் தெரியலனாலும் they will be reading the question paper, they will know what the CO test, how many marks அதெல்லாம் தெரியுங்கிறதுனால we are already implemented it.
Thank you, madam. நாங்களும் இந்த செமஸ்டர் ஃபாலோ பண்ணோம், CO PO எல்லாம் போட்டோம். சோ பசங்களுக்கு அது சம்திங் தான் இருந்தது எல்லாருக்கும்.
ஆமா சார், ஏன்னா இன்டராக்ஷன் இருக்கு சார். அவங்க the peer team will write a remarks if the students are not aware of the CO. அவங்க கேக்குற क्वेश्चन and what is the attainment, நீங்க என்ன லேர்ன் பண்றீங்க, ஸ்டூடண்ட்ஸ்க்கு ரீச்சே ஆகல அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு ஒரு சிம்பிளா கேக்குற மாதிரி ஒரு பிராட் லெவல்ல கேட்டுருவாங்க அந்த क्वेश्चन.
ஓகே. அப்ப இன்னும் பசங்களுக்கு இன்னும் அவேர்னஸ் கொடுக்கணும் क्वेश्चन.
ஆமா சார், கண்டிப்பா இருக்கு. ஏன்னா இந்த இன்டராக்ஷன் ஸ்டூடண்ட்ஸ் தான் அவங்க ரொம்ப இம்பார்ட்டன்ஸ் கொடுப்பாங்க.
ஓகே மேடம்.
Good afternoon, ma'am. I have one doubt to clarify. We have only one industrial training document, madam.
Okay.
1 year only industrial training document we are having, ma'am, for submission. For the rest of the years, due to COVID pandemic, we don't have any industrial training documents. So what is the thing, ma'am, that we have to show?
So actually, if you are saying the same thing that due to COVID, they will not accept, sir, because COVID la vandu ella pharmaceutical industry la run achu dhan they will be saying, and we have to make the document. They will not accept this reason, sir.
No, ma'am, they are not allowing the people for training, no, during the pandemic.
Appadina we can go for a documentation purpose. Avanga vandu allow panla, you have asked for the permission or you want to implement it, but they didn't permit abdingra madri you can show the records. They should know that you have taken some steps. Everything, if it is a mail from the HR, you should keep the mail and interact. Sometimes the peer team will interact with the industry person also, sir. Either they will ask the person to come here during the visit, or sometimes if nariya students ponanga, the peer team will show some interest to go to the industry also.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for the clarification.
One more doubt. Regarding the identification of weaker students, already we have done that. What are the document evidence? I think you have provided, but is it mandatory to have that is document evidence for like improvement examination or something like that?
Yes, sir, sure, sir. Yes, sir. They were in number department. They have verified it, sir. First attendance பார்த்தாங்க. First அவங்க mark statement பார்த்தாங்க. அதுல வந்து எது what we have identified ங்கிறது Suppose if an extra faculty has checked in medicinal chemistry or 10 failures or is there na, the 10 failures names eduthu நம்ம internal committee members கிட்ட காமிச்சிட்டு they have some document பண்ணி இந்த ஸ்டூடெண்ட்ஸ் எல்லாம் நம்ம ஐடென்டிஃபை பண்ணியிருக்கோம், they are all weak students, these students are bright students ன்னு ஐடென்டிஃபை பண்ணியிருக்கோம். ஃபர்ஸ்ட் டிபார்ட்மெண்ட் ஸ்க்ரூட்டனி கமிட்டிட்ட அவங்க அப்ரூவல் வாங்கணும். தென் the students daily at what time we are keeping the remedial classes, because classroom la படிச்ச அதே ஸ்டூடெண்ட் திருப்பியும் அதே தான் படிக்கிறாங்க. So the peer team will encourage if the subject is handled by some other staffs of the department. For example, if நான் ஹேண்டில் பண்ண சப்ஜெக்ட்ஸ்ல ஸ்டூடெண்ட் வீக் ஸ்டூடெண்ட்ஸ் இருக்காங்கன்னா any other extra staff from my department can handle the remedial classes also. It doesn't mean நானே தான் ஹேண்டில் பண்ணணும்னு கிடையாது. ஏன்னா அங்க லாஜிக்கல்ல the students didn't understand what I have taken and the outcome was not there. அப்படி இருக்கப்ப நானே எடுத்து என்ன அவுட்கம் வரப்போகுது அப்படிங்கிற ஒரு லாஜிக் இருக்கு. So they will be encouraging if another staff is handling the subject remedial classes. Anyway வந்து அவங்க ரெக்கார்ட் ஆஃப் திஸ் அட்டெண்டன்ஸ் டைம், நம்ம என்ன அசைன்மெண்ட் கொடுத்தோம் அவங்களை இம்ப்ரூவ் பண்ண வச்சோம், என்ன ரீ எக்ஸாம் வச்சோம், அகெயின் we have to give a new set of question paper, அந்த மாதிரி everything should be documented sir. Definitely they will check it. Remedial classes ஓட டாக்குமெண்ட்ஸ் அவங்க கண்டிப்பா வெரிஃபை பண்ணுவாங்க.
Is there any minimum number of remedial classes per subject, madam, per semester?
No sir, not like that sir.
You can keep
நம்மளோட அசைன்மெண்ட் we can say like போதும்னு சொல்லிட்டு, லைக் இப்போ இன்டர்னல் எக்ஸாம்ல ஒரு 5 ஸ்டூடெண்ட்ஸ் ஃபெயில் ஆயிட்டே இருக்காங்கன்னா I'm keeping some remedial classes and it can be conducted by another staff. அவங்க அசைன்மெண்ட் கொடுக்குறாங்க, அது பண்றாங்க. So there is a 5% improvement or 10% maximum improvement na, that is fine sir. எல்லா இதுக்கும் வைக்கணும்லாம் இல்ல sir, it depends sir. They want to know whether we are conducting some remedial classes and it is properly documented and students are beneficial based on this.
So until that students clear the paper, we'll have to make a follow-up, right?
Yes. அவங்களுக்கு அசைன்மெண்ட் கொடுத்து ஏதாச்சும் அவங்களை இம்ப்ரூவ் பண்ண வைக்கணும்ங்கிறது தான் சார் இதோட மோட்டிவ். Okay sir.
One more doubt on hospital related document for criteria 2.
Okay sir.
Ma'am, good afternoon ma'am, this is Jagdish.
Yes sir.
Yes ma'am. Madam, generally B pharmacy students, they never go to hospital for any kind of training. At least diploma pharmacy students, they have training, hospital training and dispensing training in their curriculum. But B Pharm students, they don't have. But in our criteria, there is a need of showing hospital-related activities for B Pharmacy. So how we can manage this?
So that doesn't matter, sir. Depending upon the course only, we can bring out. So industry collaboration is needed for all B Pharm students or M Pharm specialized students. Sir. So namalki ipo and the course they don't ask for all those such records. But in case of internship for Pharm D irukkrappo dhaan kepanga. If it is not necessary for diploma or B Pharm, they don't see, sir.
Okay.
They don't ask for it.
Okay, thank you.
So based on our university norms only. So அவங்க tier 1 institute இந்த மாதிரி norms இருக்குன்னா they will not interfere, but we are having the norms na, they will interfere. We are not having on the norms into, we can just give a justification for that. Whatever it's sir, if there is a proper justification, they will accept, sir.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Ma'am, I have one question in criteria 3, ma'am.
Hello, madam. Yeah, 3?
3 criteria 3, ma'am.
Regarding this criteria 2 only, I am
2 தான மேடம் சொல்லிட்டு இருக்காங்க.
Okay, ma'am.
Sorry, madam. 3, I'll try to say. நான் இப்ப 2 தான் concentrate பண்ணேன்.
Okay.
Because I have worked in this 2 only, honestly speaking. But I am aware of few points.
Okay, thank
Sorry.
you.
Okay, madam. Okay, madam. Thank you, madam. Where are doubts in that? You can ask me, madam. When the staffs are free, I'm ready to explain.
Sure, ma'am. Really, it's a very, what to say, eye opener. It is like an eye opener for criteria 2. And I think the team would have clarified with the doubts, whatever they had. Because every member in a faculty member in our college, for everybody it is a new thing only. So that is the reason why we had arranged from the criteria for the colleges who had already gone for this process. So really thankful to you, madam, for sparing your valuable time, and you have taken so much pain in preparing the slides and in explaining everything in a very meticulous manner. We are really happy, ma'am. We are sorry that we had taken most of your time in the afternoon session in your busy schedule. Thank you so much, madam, for this.
Okay, madam. Thank you, madam. Thank you for the opportunity, madam, because I also learned in that. Thank you. Bye, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, madam.
Madam, once again.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Jagdish want to ask something. Okay, madam, Vijayanand madam.
Solunga, sir.
My team only working on criteria 2. Anyhow, we have something more also. We'll be telling you after college hours also something needed.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sure, sir. LMA learning process, then, sir. I am also learning. We'll try to share, sir. No problem, sir.
Sure. Any doubt, I'll call you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you so much for your very elaborate presentation. Thank you so much.
Okay, sir. Bye. Bye, madam. Thank you.
Thank
you so much, madam, for the knowledge gained by the session. As a token of gratitude, you are showing the virtual certificate. Please accept it, madam.
I think she's there. Vijayanti madam?
Yes, sir. It can, sir.
Yes, sir. Certificate. Yes.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Thank you
we'll
so much.
send you the hard copy of the certificate, ma'am.
Yes,
this is
madam.
only a virtual certificate. So we'll send you the hard copy of the certificate. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Okay, sir. Bye.
Thank you so much, madam. Dear participants, the next session is 26th at 9 o'clock. You can join by the same ID, which has been posted in the mail. Thank you so much for the attention. Thank you all.